Right. So now, this was the initial value for savings. Okay. But now, because of a decrease in interest rate, we said that the savings and interest rate, they move in the same direction. So as there's a fall in interest rate, they will move along the savings function. But now we are no more buying. We are not buying. We are not saving much because now savings is not attractive because of the fall in what in interest rate. So the savings will fall from here up to this point, and that's our A. Okay, and just know that whenever there's a fall in savings, it means that there's an increase in consumption. Sorry. So what is happening here is that when investment decreased, there was a decrease in aggregate demand. But then, because of a fall in interest rate, there's a small increase in investment, and there's an increase in consumption too, in a proportional way to what to the initial decrease in investment, which means that there's not going to be any change in aggregate demand at all, except that the components have changed. Assuming investment decreased initially by 10, now it has increased by 4, and consumption has increased by 6. There's no change in aggregate demand, but investment has decreased by 6 units and consumption has increased by 6 units. Okay, so it's just a change in the components of aggregate demand, but not a change in the level of aggregate demand. I hope we understand.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, also very good. Yeah, also about with you.
Okay. Do you understand now?
Also, I or child or you. They see or child into you.
Do we understand?
Yes.
Okay. Right, so we move on. Okay, so this is what I was saying, that whenever there's an autonomous change, it only changes the composition of output. Okay, it's only a change in composition of output, but not aggregate demand. Okay. All right. Let's look at the effects of an increase in government spending. So this one, the first one that we did was autonomous from investment. This one is for government spending. Let's look at how that one too works. Okay. Right. These are the curves I'm saying you should really be familiar with, because we need them a lot. Good. Now let's start from E. Let's start from E. The initial equilibrium. So investment is equal to what? Savings, even before introduction of the bond finance government deficit. Okay. So now government has increased spending. So J minus T has increased. So now this is going to be the new demand for loanable funds. So this will be our equilibrium. So if there's a change in government expenditure here, an increase in government expenditure, then we expect that there's supposed to be an increase in uh, aggregate demand, right? There's supposed to be an increase in aggregate demand. Is that okay? Do we all agree to that? That if there's an increase in government spending, then there's supposed to be an increase in aggregate demand. Do we agree? Now, what we are talking about here is we are in the loanable funds market, the market where people send their idle money to lend, and then those who desire to borrow to go there to borrow funds for their investment. Okay. And we said initially that in the loanable funds market, the demand for loanable funds is the investment function, and the supply of loanable funds is the savings function. So when they come together, that's this point E, then we get our equilibrium interest rates. But we said that there's another component of the demand for loanable funds called the bond financed government deficit. That's the J minus T. Okay, we all know budget deficit. When the J minus T is negative, it's positive. That's when J is greater than T. We are spending more than we are the government is receiving as revenue. Okay, so when we add this component, it means that the demand for loanable funds is going to shift to the right. That's what we have here. Okay, that's what we have here, and this shift is coming from an increase in G. Okay, that's what we are looking at here. We want to look at the effect of an increase in government spending. Okay, so as the G minus T is increasing, then this is going to be the new demand for loanable funds, demand for loanable funds curve. This is the new curve. Okay, so the new equilibrium here is point F. The new equilibrium is point F. Please, do we understand up to this point? Abba, do you understand? Abba, I just about, do you understand?
Not really. With the B and the A, I don't know what it stands for.
I don't know. I was asking up to us moving from equilibrium E to F. That's what I'm asking if we understand now. From the E to F.
Yes, I don't understand that part.
You understand that part then?
Yes, please.
Okay. Odunioma, do you understand that part? I mean, moving from E to F.
Yes, please.
Ella.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yaira.
Yes.
Odumenza.
Yes.
Okay. Lizzie. Lizzie.
Hello.
You are now joining.
Yes, I just saw the message.
Oh. Right, you the video will be there, so you just follow, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so now we have moved from equilibrium E to F because of an increase in government spending. Okay, is that okay? Now, what is the effect of this increase in government spending? What is the effect? The first thing we can see here is that there's an increase in interest rate from R0 to what? R1. I'm sure we can all see that. Can we all see that there's an increase in interest rate from R0 to R1?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now that's the first effect, right? Good. Now, what is really happening? If there's an increase in interest rate, what happens to investment? Only investment, we are talking about investment. Ella, when there's an increase in interest rate, what happens to investment?
Investment falls.
Investment falls. Thank you. So that is seen as the movement along the investment function. Okay, there's an initially we're here. But now there's an increase in interest rate from R0 to what? R1. And as a result, we are moving along the investment function. So this is the new level of what? Investment. And this is measured by the distance B from here to here. And we moved from here to here, right? So this B that we have here is a fall in investment as a result of an increase in what? The interest rate. And this increase in interest rate too is resulting from the initial increase in government spending. So government spending has caused an increase in aggregate demand, but because of the increase in interest rates, investment is what? Investment is falling. And investment too is a component of government expenditure, which means that now is a component of aggregate demand, which means that now aggregate demand has what? Has reduced a bit after the initial increase resulting from the increase in G. Let me use assuming that the G increased by say 30. Okay, G has increased by 30, so that is seen as this portion from here to here. Okay, this whole side is what? Is 30. Good. Now after this increase, it means that aggregate demand too has increased by what? By 30. So let's hold on to this. Now, because of an increase in government spending, because there's an increase in government spending, if there's an increase in government spending, it's causing what? An increase in interest rate, which means that investment is what? Investment is falling. It is falling from here to here. So this whole portion from here to here is a fall in investment. So just assuming investment has fallen by say 20 units, okay, 20, because of the increase in interest rate. So it means that aggregate demand too is what? Is falling by 20 units. So that is this B part. The B part here is a fall in investment. Are we okay? Please, do we understand the effect on investment before I move on? Abba, do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand?
Please, I stepped out.
You did what?
I stepped out.
Oh, okay. Adwasewa,
Yes, please.
do you understand the B?
Yes, please.
Okay. Oduniama,
Yeah, I'll try to do your from.
Yes, I understand.
okay. Ella,
Eh,
Ella,
Yeah, yes, please.
you understand, eh?
No, not really.
Okay. I know these things are confusing. Okay. I wanted to ask. Please don't go away. Eh? No one should go away. We are starting from the initial equilibrium where we had only investment and then what? The savings functions. Okay. So at this is the initial equilibrium. Okay, point E. Now this equilibrium interest rate is R0, and then the savings and investment are taken as S0 and I0. Okay, and they are the same because we are the equilibrium point. And now we are saying that there's an increase in government expenditure, as we've seen earlier. We said that the demand for loanable funds is not only limited to investment, but we have bond financed government deficits too. Okay, so now we are saying that there's an increase in government spending. And if there's an increase in government spending, it means that there's an increase in the bond financed government deficit. Okay, so when we add a G minus T to our investment, there's going to be an increase. Okay, so that's the new the demand for loanable funds function or curve. That's what we have here, which means that the equilibrium point is moving from E to F. Okay, it's moving from E to F. So that's what we have here. Okay, and before this could happen, interest rate must go up. Okay, so because there's an increase in interest rate, this is the new equilibrium point, and our new savings. So now, what this A and B stands for, this is what we are doing. We are trying to look at the reason why savings increased and came to what? S1. And you can see I1 here. It means that there's a decrease in what? Investment. So what caused this increase in savings and what caused the decrease in investment and its effect on aggregate demand? That is what we are trying to look at. Okay. So now we're here. This is where we were. Interest rate is R0. Now there's an increase to R1, which means that because of the negative relationship between interest rate and investment, we need to move upwards along the investment curve. Okay, we won't draw any new curve. We'll just move along it. Now there's a reduction in investment. Why? Because of an increase in government interest rate resulting from an increase in government expenditure. So I was using this as an example that assuming that government expenditure increased by 30, it means that aggregate demand will go up by what? By 30 units, since J is a component of AD. Okay. Now, because of the increase in interest rates from R0 to R1, there's a reduction in investment from I0 to what? To I1. And that's this B part. This part, this distance here. There's a reduction in investment. So I'm just assuming that the reduction is 20. So if we get a reduction of 20, it means that aggregate demand will fall by what? By 20 units. So that's the B that we have here. Okay, so this is how investment fell from I0 to what? To I1. I hope we understand this. Do we understand this?
Relationship between savings and interest rates.
Do we understand the investment part? The reason why there's a fall in investment? Please, if you can't talk, you just send a message and just say something, because I need to know if I can go on or not.
Please, question.
Yeah.
Please, when government spending increase, did it cause interest rates to increase or interest rates increase by itself?
No, it was the government expenditure that caused an increase in interest rates. Without the increase in government expenditure, we're still at R0. So this is the reason why interest rates must increase. I'm saying that the J minus T is part of the demand for loanable funds. Whenever there's an increase in demand, what happens to price? Price must go up just to encourage the producers to sell more, so that the equilibrium state can be restored. So it's just like that here. If there's an increase in J, it means that there's an increase in the demand for loanable funds. So the interest rate must go up to make sure that the market is back to equilibrium. Is that okay? We are demanding more. So if people don't supply more, there will be a disequilibrium. But how can we make people supply more? By enticing them through an increase in interest rate. So now we'll tell you that you bring your money, we'll pay you more interest. So people will keep on what? Supplying the loans. Then we'll have a higher interest rate, then equilibrium will be restored. So the interest rate increased because there was an increase in government expenditure. Is that okay?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So I hope now we all understand why investment is falling. Now let's look at A. Let's look at A. We were here. I'm now talking about the savings function. We were here, right? In interest rate was R0. Now it's R1. Okay. And there's a positive relationship between savings and interest rate. So as the interest rate is increasing from R0 to R1, we'll move along the savings function. Okay, so we'll move from here to this point, and that brings us to our S1, the increase in what? In savings. So assuming that savings is increasing by say 10 units, okay, by 10 units. And I'm sure we all understand why it's increasing by 10 units, because there's an increase in interest rate. So we move along the savings function. So we have an increase in interest rate. So this is our SI. So as savings is increasing, then consumption will what? Will fall. So if savings should increase by 10, then consumption will fall by what? By 10. Okay, consumption will fall by 10. Let me use the minus here to indicate the fall. Okay, so investment has decreased by 20. Consumption too has decreased by what? 10. So we'll subtract our 10. So what is happening to aggregate demand? It's not changing at all. It initially increased by 30 from an increase in government expenditure, and then it decreased by 20 because of an increase in interest rate through investment. Now it has decreased again by 10 because savings is increasing, which automatically means that consumption is what? It's falling. So whenever there's an autonomous increase in government spending, it is not going to affect aggregate demand. Rather, these are the changes. Government spending has changed, has increased. Investment has decreased. Consumption too has decreased. So this is what we are talking about. That whenever there's an autonomous change in any of the components, aggregate demand will not change. It's only the components that will be changing. And that's what we are saying here. Aggregate demand didn't change, but government expenditure has increased, investment has decreased, and then consumption too has decreased. Is that okay? Please, do you understand now? Do you understand?
Yes, please.
Everyone, do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we thank God. So now, what we've seen is that even if there's a change in government spending, it doesn't really affect the aggregate demand function. Okay, it is constant. It won't change except that the components are going to change. Okay, the components are going to change. So the drawing basically is just like a decrease in how do we call it? Investment. Okay, a decrease in investment. All right, so all these things are what we spoke about. Right, I'm sure you've heard crowding out before. Have you heard crowding out before?
Yes, please.
Okay. Whenever the government tries to spend more than it generates from taxes, okay, we have a name called crowding out. Okay, what this means is that when the government spends too much, when the government tries to increase aggregate demand by increasing its spending, it rather ends up crippling private spending. When we talk about private spending, we are talking about consumption and investment. Okay, you increase G, and then it turns out to be a decrease in C and I. When we have 100% crowding out, then it means that the initial change in government expenditure will be the same as the changes in investment and then consumption. But for this model, there's 100% crowding out. That's what we just use the curves for. As soon as there's an increase in government expenditure, there's going to be a fall in investment and consumption, which is exactly the same as the initial increase in government expenditure. So under this system, we say that there's what 100% crowding out, which means that there's not going to be any change in output. Nothing is going to change. Okay, nothing is going to change. So that's what we have here. It only changes the composition of output. So when you take your aggregate demand, J has increased, C has decreased, I has decreased, but the AD itself wouldn't change. Okay, it wouldn't change. So that's what we call cardinal. I think for this level, we'll do some small cardinal computations, but you do it in macroeconomic theory. You do the maths there. Okay.
Second semester.
Yeah, level 400 second semester.
300 second semester.
Level 400.
Really?
Okay, so this is an example. We have been given the investment function. Let's do this one before we go. We have been given the investment function as I equals 58 minus 7R, and then we have our savings function too. And in equilibrium, we know that I is supposed to be equal to S. So the first question is saying that we have to find R star and I star. That's equilibrium interest rate and investments. Okay, I'm coming. Let me show you this. Okay, so we divide through by 10. Initially, you equate I to S. So this is the I function, this is the S function. So you group like terms, okay? You group like terms. Okay, so we divide through by 10. We divide through by 10, and then we are getting R star to be 5. We are getting R star to be 5. So if you want to get your level of investment, you just put the investment into the, you put the interest rate into the investment function. Okay, so we have 58 minus 7 by 5. This is what we have. So this is your R star, and then this is your I star. Okay, good. And now the second part was there's an increase in government bond financed government deficit by 30. So we should find the new interest rates, the new equilibrium interest rates, and the new investment. Okay, the new equilibrium interest rate and the new investment. Okay, right. So now you add, as I said, now the demand for loanable funds will not only be investment, but you need to add the bond finance government deficit. So we add the 30 to the initial investment function. So now this is what we are getting. We get 88 minus 7R. Then you equate it to the initial savings function. Okay, just as before. So now this is what we have. We group like terms. So now we have 88.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, honestly, the B part, I'm really confused.
Okay, what I'm saying is that, okay, let's look at the question. If there's a 30 million bond financed increase in government expenditure, find the new R and then the I star. And then we have to look at how AD and the Y will be affected. Okay, so now the J, this is the J minus T. Okay, the J minus T here is the 30 million. And it's part of the demand for loanable funds. It's part of demand for loanable funds. Okay. So let's look at that. Okay, so that's what we are looking at here. Okay, so we add the bond finance government deficit to the investment function. Okay, so this is what you get. If you add 30 to this. Okay, so we'll get 88 minus 7R. Then we'll equate it to the savings function. We equate it to the savings function. Okay, so this is what we are getting. 88 minus 7R is equal to this. Okay, so now we want to find R, so we group like this. We bring this one here. We are getting 10R, and then this will be what, 80. We divide through by R by 10, right? So we are getting R star to be 8. So you see that now, because of an increase in J, the government spending, there's an increase in interest rate, just like we saw from the diagram. Okay. And now, because of an increase in the interest rate, if you want your new investment, you go and put the new interest rate, which is 8, into the investment function. Okay, so when you put 8 here, that's what we are getting. We are getting 2. Initially, this was I. Now this is what the new I, as a result of government spending. Is that okay? As a result of government